Welcome, dogs. Get your goggles, get your tightest lycra tri-suit, put on those compression socks. Why be good at one sport if you can be shit at three? This is the Triathlon Mockery podcast. Morning, my dogs. This is a Monday morning recording, so we're both still a bit sleepy. Anyway, it's the start of a new week, the week after the World Champs, and if you're on the bright side, then you're probably full of motivation. If not, after World Champs like this, then maybe you should be thinking of getting into high rocks or something else next year. Jody, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. Like you say, we're really motivated, aren't we, after watching the World Champs? And if you're not motivated, then definitely you need another call-in, don't you?
You need another call-in, which is also all right. But you're just not the Ironman Mike Riley is looking for.
Yeah, things are going to get feisty, mate, in this podcast, I have a feeling.
They are. Hey, you had a pretty wild weekend. I saw you smashing a 10K yesterday.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with that. Like, I entered it because it would have been either a solo session, because loads of the guys that I trained with raced Frankfurt Marathon the week before, and then some of the others did this cross-country relays. It's like a national cross-country relay where you have like 4 people from a team and you all go, and it was in Mansfield. So basically my options were a solo threshold session by myself or tempo, or do a 10K. So I thought, well, I'll just do the 10K and use that as part of the session. And I thought I want to run it like pretty hard, but not like all out, because I don't want to like fuck yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Basically, what you're saying is you did a 31-minute 10K in zone 2, right?
Zone 2, mate. Morgan Pearson style, just a little bit slower.
Just zone 2. I mean, he wanted to give it some, but not all the minerals. You still need to in the tank.
I did that at the end, and when I finished, I thought, do I reckon I could hold this for a half marathon? And I thought, if I was in a good field, like a fast course with some people like to run with, I reckon if I went all out, that would have been like roughly what I'd be looking to hold for a half marathon. So I reckon,
and that is a 108.
Just on that would have been like a 107.20, 107.30 something. So I reckon between 107.30 and 108 would be where I'm at the moment for a half marathon. That's what I.
Do you really reckon? Without the course being a K short.
yeah, definitely, yeah, like 100%, yeah.
That's bold statements. Bold statements being made here in the podcast early morning. But hey, all right, yeah, let's get it going.
Huh? Well, like if you run a 30-minute 10K on a fast course, you should be looking for under 108 under a half marathon.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't know what you should be looking for. No, but I respect the hustle.
What would you not say if you can run 3:05s for a 10K per kilometre? You wouldn't look to hold 3:12s for a half marathon. 7-second drop off per K.
Well, of course, if you say it like that, I do believe so. But I also believe in. I don't believe it unless I've seen it. And up until now, I think your PB is like 111.
Yeah, because that was like 2014, mate.
Yeah, but the 111 and the 107 is like it's like a world of difference. So I do believe you can.
I haven't done one for 11 years, for like 10 years, mate. Right.
I believe you can, but I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to see that result. That pensionaro of yours.
You're running 112s and 70.3s this year.
Yeah, I know.
So you've got to be in quicker than 111 shape if you're running a 112 off the bike.
Yeah, but it's like me saying, "Oh, I'm in a sub 8 hour Ironman shape because I've done this in Almere and I can do that on the run." But if you haven't done it, you haven't done it. So, but you need to cash in them numbers. Because once you stop with the sport, you want to have the numbers that you can show up at a birthday party once you're like 60 years old or something.
Back in my day.
Yeah. Your grandpa was able to do a 107 half marathon because he had a 30-minute 10K. I didn't do it, but I could.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want to do is I need to do a half marathon before the end of this year to get a qualifying time for London, because I want to do, at the start of next year, I want to do Ironman New Zealand, potentially Ironman South Africa, and then I'm going to get an entry into London Marathon in April, and then I'll have a bit of a break, and then I'll build up for a race in July, and obviously Nice in September. And if I get if I do under 1:11:30 for a half marathon, you get a championship entry for London Marathon, so you can like start in like a decent place, and then you're guaranteed an entry as well. So I want to keep my options open and give that so I can give that a crack. I want to go for a good time in London.
It sounds like a really good idea, but you just said between nose and lips through. So I don't know if you and me are sometimes borderline decision-wise because of the weather in the Netherlands and in the UK, because we change our opinion, our race plans just like the weather in the Netherlands. It can change in a split second. And you just said going for Nice, whilst previously you were saying no Nice. I'm not going to do Ironman series or whatever next year. I want to focus on other races.
I'm not doing the Ironman Pro Series, but I want to do South Africa because it's a good race.
Mm-hmm.
It fits timing of the year is good, and I want to try and win it. But I'm not going to pursue the Ironman Pro Series. To me, it's too much traveling.
But you are going to race Nice Worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That is the goal.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah. But I'm not going to go for the series because to me, I can't do the series. The way the racing pans out, it doesn't work well for me. Like I'd rather just target individual races and try and win them.
But targeting Nice, is that because you watched the World Champs? You were like, poo, that is.
Yeah, I watched the World Champs and I was really motivated. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about what would I need to do to get a really good result in Nice. And I had a big think about it. And I thought, I think I can do that. So I think I could get a really good result in Nice. So I thought, well, I'll give it a good shot. And I think I can do really well there. Because I kind of thought through what I'd need to do to perform to get a top 5, top 3, potentially win it. And I thought, I don't think that seems out of reach if I trained specifically for it and got to the targets in my head that I think I'd need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So the marathon and what's the goal for the marathon then?
I'd want to go under 220 if I did it.
Under 220.
That's what I want to do. And then, does that mean that you're capable of a sub 108 half marathon in your book, or does that still mean that you're not because you haven't done it?
I mean, I think I am capable of, and I am a flipping 107 guy from Norwich.
Well, you'd say a 107 is better than a 219 marathon then?
It's both quick.
Because I would say a 219 marathon is way better than a 107 half marathon.
219 is way more sexy, definitely, yeah. A 219 in the end, it's like someone says I'm a 345 7-point freer, or someone that says I'm a sub 8 Ironmaner. It hits different. It hits the birthday parties. After you explained what it is, they know, like, I don't want to brag, but I'm kind of a big deal. That is what it is.
You should get your entry, mate, and have a crack at London.
Yeah, I'm having a crack at Rotterdam.
And you want to go? You've got some big ambitions, mate.
Do I?
I have up to today.
So in my head right now, I've planned that next year is going to be my last year as a professionalis. Well, at least
you're going to start killing the age group ranks, mate. I'll tell you what, you need to watch out. There was sabotage in the male 35 to 39-year-old.
We'll get to that in a bit. But the big goals for me are, I want to do up and around the 230 marathon, which for me is pretty ambitious. And I think for you, the 220 is also ambitious. So if I'm training hard from now on till April next year and focus a lot more on the running, I think on the best day, I could do 230 or under 230. So that's an ambitious goal. And the other one is the sub 8 hour Ironman in Copenhagen next year. I saw Copenhagen is a pro race. It's a fast course. So I'm going to target that in August. And of course, I'll do something in between, maybe New Zealand, maybe something else, but just target a couple of big races and or big goals for myself. And basically that is it.
So we should have a little bit of a bet going then. So if I did the marathon, you did the marathon, like for every second we are over or under 220 and 230, like it's a competition against each other, with the loser having to do something like a bit of a forfeit, or the winner getting something. So say you do 2:29, I did 2:21:20, then I'd lose because I'm a minute and 20 and you're only a minute off.
But I would say you're way closer to doing the 220 than me doing it 240.
I would say after a bit of training, it's harder for me than it is for you.
What pace is 220? Is that a 322k pace?
No, it's like 3:18 or 3:19.
319.
Yeah, exactly, mate. So we should get a bit of cash on this, like, or something, or a bit of a forfeit. If you guys let a listener know what would be a good forfeit, does Tom have to do Copenhagen just as a dragon on the run or something like that? Like, what does he have to do if he loses? What do I have to do? What does the winner get?
Yeah.
You might have to do another marathon with a fridge on your back, like one of them people, or Ross Edgley. You know them stupid tasks what people do where they like carry a tree trunk or something for a marathon.
Oh, that is a bit annoying, isn't it?
Whenever I see that, I kind of feel like, what's the fucking point, mate? Like, you did a marathon, you couldn't get that quicker time, so you looked for an obscure challenge. Like, oh no, I'm going to carry a tree, or I'm going to put a fridge on my back and do it because no one else does that. And it's like, there's a reason no one else does that. It's because it's ridiculous, and like, it's just makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense, but it is it's just in order to be able to do more and more extreme stuff. Like I'm now in this. I know a group of guys, like they try to motivate each other with training, which is in the essence very great. But I think the downside is, so these are all hybrid athletes, is that they encourage each other to do ridiculous stuff. So this is why I don't really encourage the hybrid athletes, because they are always like, I'm going to do a marathon and I've only ran 3 times in my life. And to me, yes, you can maybe do it mentally, but it's a flipping stupid decision. If you see how many of these athletes get injured because they do the most ridiculous stuff.
Do a lot of them get injured? What then? Because
they get injured in absolute shitloads. Also, the high rocks athletes, because they don't have a lot of run experience, yet they're going to do a high rocks 3 times a week, which involves 3 times running at a high intensity a week. But we as triathletes are naturally good at high rocks because we've got a shitload of basis from the triathlon and we've got the run experience. People who don't come from triathlon or from running, they get into high rocks, a shitload of them get injured just because of the running, because you run hard under fatigue. And you will have bad technique.
I thought hybrid athletes were like bomb-proof, you know, like nothing.
Oh, no, I'm not, mate. Like really? Torn calves and this and that. Maybe you're talking about some of the hybrid athletes that you see that are flipping pumped on the gram.
Yeah, them guys.
And some of them are pretty robust, but then it's also a hype to just do the most ridiculous stuff, you know, untrained marathon, 100K race. Now let's do this. It's just cool to do bizarre shit.
Talking about some of these people that you see on the gram that are big, that these hybrid athletes that are like real big in it. Do you think a lot of them are on drugs? Because like, sometimes you see on the chat people saying it, and I thought, like, because you know that Liver King, like, didn't he get like sued because he was like trying to say it was all about his diet, all about his lifestyle, and then it turns out that he's like flipping taking loads of testosterone and everything to make himself look big. I've
seen a couple of interviews and also researches about testosterone use and growth hormone and all that kind of crap in the gym and in the and it's actually kind of scary how many people use it.
Oh, it's loads.
Yeah,
like I know a doctor that told me that when they're in the hospital or like working as a GP, the amount of people that have to, when they ask them about like, you know, stuff because they come in with problems, and so many blokes are actually on testosterone and stuff, you know, like steroids, that you wouldn't think. But, you know, obviously they tell the doctor because they're coming in because they've got something seriously wrong and they don't know what's caused it. And it's massive. It's absolutely huge.
With more, so over the last 10 years, a lot of women also tend to really like going in the gym and all that. Do you think there's a lot of testosterone use under like women as well, or do you think it's just a men thing?
I wouldn't afford it with women. Like, well, I mean, like, it's going to make you look real butch like a man, isn't it? Like, you know, I would find that crazy if you're a woman and you wanted to do that, because I thought a lot of the women like to do it because they want to look good, and like that's going to make you look really manly. I do think in CrossFit, when you see the women, there's definitely, when they take it to that extremes and they're competing at the top level, I think the women in CrossFit, there's definitely a lot of testosterone use. Like that, it doesn't look natural. they're pretty jacked, and honestly, they're like I don't think that's very clean, and it makes you wonder like how much testing are these doing? Because do they really care if people are jacked in these sports?
But
What benefit is it for them
but
to
what do
test?
you think of them extreme challenges of these hybrid athletes? That they're like the most bizarre extreme shit.
I think when they do challenges and they do like a decent amount of lifting and then do a run, that's pretty impressive and that's quite good. But doing a challenge like carrying a flipping tree trunk for a marathon or a fridge on your back, I just think it's ridiculous. Like you're just doing it because you can't run a good marathon. So you're looking at something obscure to kind of get the limelight. It's like just run a marathon and see how fast you can do it. Like if you're doing something and you're like, I've seen people do this. You've probably seen it on Instagram where they like, I'm going to do a deadlift of 500 pounds and then run a sub 5 minute mile.
I've sent that one to you.
I've seen a few of them going. I've seen a few of them going around anyway. But
It's ridiculous.
But I think they're good. I think that's all right doing that because it's like a mix of like strength and speed. So it's like you can't be a complete meathead who can't run because you're never going to run a sub 5 minute mile for like some guy who weighs like 15 stone or 200.
Yeah, but what the thing is, you can see for example, a really, well, let's call it an elite hybrid athlete, who would maybe execute the exercise right, and then a lot of people see it and think like, oh, I want to give that a crack. So they're kind of pushing the boundaries with the weight, and they're doing like a deadlift with insane weights with shitty technique, probably fuck up their back or something, and then do the run. That's the video I've sent you. Like his technique was all over the place.
I can't remember his technique looking bad.
To me, it looked dodgier as anything. He was like He was like shaking, and his back was shaking.
It's because he's got so much weight on there.
Yeah, but the only thing they're doing it for is the gram, isn't it?
You know what a coach used to say, mate? If you do an effort that's that hard, he wants to see you shaking like a shitting dog. That's when you're pushing.
You don't want to see your lower back shaking like that because it's going to be anyway, all right. So we're both targeting the big goals, and you're already full swing in the training. I've seen that. I've seen you going
full swing, mate. For first 3 weeks ticked off. Had an easy week last week, and now getting back into 3 weeks of decent training again, starting from today. Little bit of build on the last 3 weeks.
Nice one. I am also starting again this week. So I have been starting already with the running. I've been running really consistent over the last 3 weeks. But over the last 3 weeks, I've only done 2 swims a week and 1 or 2 bike rides. But now I'm going to get back in there. But just 2, 3, 4 months. We've got 4 months, mate.
4 months. And then it's time to party, mate, on the course.
It's time to party on the course.
Sub 8 hours at New Zealand for you?
By the way, for that sub 2:30 marathon, I've got a race I can do the 17th of November. So it's in like 2 weeks.
Let me guess what it's called. Got to be the 7 Hills.
It's either the 7 Hills or it's the duo marathon. And a duo marathon is basically you run a marathon. So, for example, you and me together, and you need to get as fast as you can. Well, that's just like a normal marathon from start to finish. But then you can change. So I can start off, do a K, then you go, do a K. That's how you do it. So
if you were doing that with Christian Blumenfeld and he was in full fitness, how long would you make him run before you gave him the bike? Well,
it's quicker to do short reps, for example, K reps or 500-meter reps, instead of letting him run 5K or 6K.
Yeah, but like, would you just what do you? But then think every time you change on the bike, you're losing time, though, aren't you?
No, because what you're doing is,
you're getting the
if you're changing, you'll get like 10 meters ahead. You'll get off the bike, and then as soon as you get off the bike, and as soon as he like claps your hand, you start running. So it's like immediate flow.
But 500s, that would mean that you'd have to do like 42 reps if you were doing 500-meter turns.
Yeah, both. So I'm thinking about doing K reps and then run like 30K pace.
All right, so you wouldn't do 600-meter reps then?
No, we're going for the Ks. If we're doing it. So which one would you do? 7 Hills or the duo marathon?
7 Hills, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a massive one. That's where the world record was set for the 15K, wasn't it?
True.
Like that looks a really good one. That's a really high standard, isn't it, as well?
Mega high standard. Absolutely crazy high standard.
Why is it so fast when it's called Seven Hills? Because to me, that sounds fucking slow. Like if
I
someone
don't
told me
know
that.
why it is. I honestly don't know, mate. But it's a fast course, and there's like a lot of fast runners in there. I think. Let me look up the results. But in general, man, there's just so many good runners. But the difference is they've got no muscle. They're just running bag of bones. I know because I was looking at some races, 10K races, half marathons. There are also so many fast Dutch people. And I'm not even talking elite runners, but people who would run 32, 31, 30-minute 10Ks to sub 110 half marathons. Let me see. Results. So it's a 15K run, right? The Seven Hills.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's normally one in like 41 minutes, isn't it? Something like that.
41 minutes. Jacob Kiplimo. So Kiplimo, Kibet, Sedem, Tesfu were in the top 4.
I reckon you could take on Kiplimo, couldn't you? Who's he? He isn't an Ironman like you.
Who is he?
Is he a good swimmer?
Yeah, no, they're like, if you look at it, so the top, holy flipping shit. So the top 60, now let's say the top 100 is all under 50 minutes. Top 100 is under 50 minutes.
Yeah.
What is that, like 320K pace?
Yeah, probably about that. 33. Yeah, that is basically, that is 320K pace. 50 minutes.
That's pretty quick, don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty fast, but I thought there'd be more people I thought there'd be more than 100 people under 50 minutes for that because it's such a big race.
Yeah, but that thing is, so that's 320K pace. I don't think I can go quicker on a 15K than 333K pace, something like that. I just don't have the speed to go 320s for a long period of time.
Well, just give it your best shot, mate. There's not much I can say. If you just get out and just, I don't know, hang on.
I know. I'm still, if I think back about that 10K I've done last year in March, when I was only training for 3 months, then I'm still amazed at it. What was it, like 325 or something for the 10K?
Yeah, something like that. You did 34 minutes, didn't you?
Yeah. So this is, I'm thinking like, how the hell did I do that? Also with the 5K at 307 or 308K pace. Like, no clue.
You need a coach.
Hmm?
You need a coach.
A mental coach.
It's a running coach.
Alrighty. Shall we head over to the main subject of the week? So do we still want to review the world champs? Some of we want to rate some of the people that are listed.
Yeah, we're going to go through and we're going to say whether or not we think they had a good race for them, for what they would have been looking for, or a bad race. So a little bit different, So someone who gets 7th could potentially have a better race than someone who came 3rd because they weren't expected to. They overperformed what they would have hoped.
Yeah.
All right. So you pick one person, I'll pick one, and we'll pick a couple each or something like that, and then we'll move on to something else.
I want to start off with my main man, Patrick Lang. I am amazed that we didn't pick him as one of our top picks.
I didn't think he was going to do it after the amount of races he's done this year, and I just felt like he was going to lose a lot of time on the bike. I just didn't think he was going to get the podium. Did you?
Yeah, but I, of course, it's hard to say stuff in hindsight. But yes, I completely overlooked Patrick Lang. Because if there's someone who is always deadly if he is in contention in extreme heat conditions, it's Patrick Lang, as he is over multiple years the only athlete that can run by minutes, like by far, faster than everyone else. So if he is in contention, then he's a deadly athlete. And I've said it before in the podcast, like when he won in 2017, like his first world champions, I was sitting behind my desk studying for international tax law exam. And I was thinking, holy guacamole. We'll talk about Lionel Sanders as well, but he got overtaken in the last,
So
I
you
think,
watched
last
that? That
two
was the first
miles.
one you watched.
Mate,
So you would
that
have seen
was
Lionel.
my Iron War that got me into like Ironman full
So
distance.
you weren't a fan at that time after watching that, not knowing anyone. You were more of a fan of Langer than you were Lionel, even though Lionel was like
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
I
were
didn't
like, I
know.
want to him.
The only thing I was thinking was like, "Whoa, that Lionel runs horrible," as in his technique. And then you could see that Patrick Lang coming out like a flipping gazelle.
Yeah.
And yeah, that got me so inspired. And I knew no one on the pro list, like absolutely flipping no one. And I just looked at it and I was thinking like, holy fuck, this guy can run. And at the time, and this is where you know you're being influenced by a certain athlete, I bought the same shoes and socks as what he had
Really?
in Kona, and that's where I did my first Ironman in,
What did he
and I
have?
flipping won it, baby.
What was he wearing? Can you remember what he was?
Yeah, he was wearing, I think it was New Balance. Was it the Hanso S?
All
Yeah,
right, so you've got a New Balance
New
pair of
Balance, New Balance, Hanso S 2017, and then he had the black and white version, or he had the yellow version. This first year, no, he had the black and white version, and then he had the socks back then from Primal, and then it was called Lightning or something. Mate,
Really? You know your retro kit, don't you?
I knew my kit. I knew my kit from back in the days. I bought that, and I did my Ironman in the same kit, and I flipping won it. My
So
first Ironman.
you were like, man, this kit's fast. Like this guy has.
Yeah,
What else is he using?
but that is how a certain athlete can inspire someone who is getting into the sport, or so that is in the end how it works. And if you're in the sport for a long time, and it can even be if you're not a top professional, you know, you can be an age grouper and inspire people because your road to is more tangible for people.
Yeah, you inspired a lot of people with your story when you first started, didn't you? From fat to fit.
Yeah, from
That was
fat.
what got you a big following, wasn't it?
Yeah. When Instagram wasn't about reels back in the days.
Instagram now, I think, is a bit shit because it's really hard to find new people. Like, I don't know about you, but don't you find like the only people you find is like if you specifically go out there, search for that person, and then you start following them, but you never see new, fresh stuff, do you? Really?
No,
You know,
it's always the same people coming out and that are pumping the reels, absolutely pumping the reels.
Yeah.
It's become a bit of a different platform. Also, I hardly ever see the stuff people that I follow post coming
Yeah.
up in the wall. I think that's annoying.
It's so weird. It's like it hides certain things because I feel
Yeah.
like certain people don't post anything, and then you go on their thing and you're like, oh, they've actually posted quite a bit, but I never see it. It's like it will just show you the same 10 people or 15 people out of
Yeah.
who you follow, and that's all you see. Yeah, it's flipping crazy that. Like,
It is flipping crazy. But back to Patrick Lang's result, he had an amazing swim, and then he was on there still on the bike in contention. Maybe he was like 3 minutes down to Sam Laidlow. No, he was more like 6 or 7 minutes.
No, it was like 9 minutes, mate.
6 or 9 minutes, I don't know. But
It was
after
9 minutes.
8Ks in a run, you could calculate that he was going to catch him around K30. But then Sam Laidlow was a goner. So yes, Patrick Lang, I'm going to rate his result. Flipping 9, baby.
9. Yeah, I would say 9 or a 10. I mean, like course record, and he
a 10.
One,
I mean, perfect. Was executed.
No
perfect.
one had him to. No one picked him to podium really, or certainly not to. If they did, it was only to scrape on the podium. But no one picked him to win, did they? If someone says they picked him to win, they're talking shit, aren't they? Like no one.
True. No one had picked him, which I think still is crazy because he has had races in the past, also in 2018. No, not in 2018, but he has had races in the past where he was in the lead pack after the swim. So it was only if he could hang on the bike and not lose too much time. So everyone knows if he doesn't lose too much time on the bike, he's definitely one to watch for the podium or for the win in extreme conditions. So everyone slept on him. And
all right.
People were also discussing his celebration. That they said he had a lot of anger.
Did they?
So he finished and he had a lot of anger, and he was doing the shush, shutting up the haters. What do
I
you
like
think
that.
of that? Huh?
I didn't even know that people were discussing it. Were they really saying? Were people
Mate, they're
kicking off?
always discussing if you don't do anything woke. So people were
Yeah.
saying like, why the anger? He should be happy that he won. And I'm thinking like, I don't think this wasn't for the age groupers that some sort of love to watch the sport. This is a message from him to like the critics of the sports who
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
already ruled him out for a long time. Like he's had some tough years, you know. If you become world champion in 2017 and 2018, and then it takes like what is it, 7 years, now 6 years before you become world champion again. But you're out there every year grafting and grafting, and people are like criticizing you. Oh, he's bad. He's had his days. That's what the shush is for.
Yeah, he's definitely doing it to the haters. But all these keyboard warriors that you see come up, like, did you see him? You saw them because I sent you the thing, didn't you? About them all commenting on Leon Chevalier's thing. So Leon put his head in a big basket of like ice and stuff like that, which apparently was just being used to cool the big jugs of water, like the big bottles of water. So it wasn't drinking water anyway. So he put his head in there to cool himself down, which I've seen other athletes do before. But obviously, because he was at the front, it was like filmed and then put on to like Ironman post it on Instagram, so it went out there to a lot more people. And all these keyboard warriors like commenting on it and stuff, saying how disrespectful and all this. And it's like you just think, get a fucking grip, guys. Like he's out there battling. Some guy said, "Oh, I don't like." I said, "This is it's his job," and then someone commented on it and said, "I don't put my head in the ice cooler when I'm in my office at work." And it's like, you're in an air conditioned office, you fucking bell end. Like, he's on the Queen K in the middle of the day, running through lava rocks, pushing his body to the extreme temperature, racing for every second he's got. It's like, get a fucking grip. Like,
Yeah, but you don't know what this Steve Allen is like in the office. You know, if he's rocking his keyboard and he's flipping printing like no one else, he needs to cool his head down in the ice cooler in the office. You know,
he finishes a Zoom call and he's fucking putting his head in the freezer. He's just completely untapped.
like,
Steve,
he's
someone
like,
comes in the
"Whoa."
office and like first at work and like they see Steve run out of his office and he just shuts his head in the freezer and they're like, Jesus, what's going on here? You know them like memes what you get kind of thing on.
And then he would say afterwards, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Harris, but that was a heated discussion. I had to cool down."
Oh my God, yes, I just sold some new double glazing windows to a new shop. Yes. The commission on this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, the conversation got a bit hot, so I had to cool down. Yeah, but that was what Leon was like on the Queen K. But it's also, I mean, I do get it for some people because I think one of the top comments was someone saying like, "Oh, so this is why the aid stations are always empty when I'm there." And yeah, I can see when you see a video of someone grabbing all the stuff that they can see, and I mean it's good on Leon, right? Because he grabbed he grabbed what he could and what he's allowed to do. But then for a competitor like the other one, I don't know if she was talking about the local 10K run or the Ironman World Champs. But it kind of sucks. But I don't think they have this at the World Champs. If an aid station is empty and you're battling out there for 16 hours on the Queen K, you know.
I mean, all I can say is like, if the aid stations are all gone when you get there, just go a bit quicker. Like it's tough to say, but like if you're at the front, they're always full. Like, it is what it is. Like that's the life, isn't it? If you're late to the theme park, you're queuing for the rides, aren't you? And you're at the back of the queue and you're waiting an hour and they're waiting 2 minutes. Like that's life, isn't it? If you're not first, you're last. But whatever. That's just a fact, isn't it? If you at lunchtime, mate, when the bell goes, but when you're at school, everyone runs to get in the queue, don't they? First, like because they know if you're not first, you're going to be waiting a long while.
All right, rating the second athlete. This one's yours to pick.
Matt Hansen, 10th place, 7:54, just under 20 minutes behind Patrick Langer. What do we think about that then? He got out to swim 3 minutes down, basically. So I'd say a pretty solid swim for him. 4:14 bike. So basically would have lost like another 10 minutes to the second group, to the chase group, on top of what he lost from the swim, and then a 2:45 run. Managed to run his way into 10th place. What do you think about that? Or should I give it the rating first?
You give it the rating first because it was yours to pick.
I'm going to say First time in the top 10 for him in Kona in a really strong field this year. I'm going to give that an 8.
And
I
eight.
think for him, that was like, with how his season had gone over the full distance and stuff, I think that was probably his best result of the year, And to put things into perspective, if he was 8 minutes off third place,
Yeah.
so if he'd a bike to 4:06, which would have still been losing, he would have got out the swim with Leon. If he'd lost another 5 minutes to Leon in the swim, he
Yeah.
would have been in with a shot of getting on the podium.
I think he would have liked to biked a little bit quicker
Yeah.
and swam a little bit quicker, but in the end, I think this is as good as it's gonna get for Matty Hansen, and it still got him second place at the Ironman Pro Series, which I think that place for him is probably locked in for now. Like, I
No, I
think,
don't think it is, mate. I don't think
no.
it is. I had a look at the points. Yeah, there's a few guys below that haven't used all their 70.3s, so they can still potentially gain another 2 to 2.5, well, up to 3,000 points if they race the world 70.3s.
So who
So
do you think is going to be able to take him over then? It's going to be either.
it's going to be between Patrick Langer, if he needs to do another 70.3 to improve his score. Bearing in mind he's already used all his, but he scored very poorly at 270.3, so he has got some scope to improve on that.
Yeah.
But then the two threats from behind are Gregory Barnaby, and the American Matthew Marquette. They're literally 20 points between them, and they both haven't used all their 5 scoring races. They've only used 4 scoring races at the moment. So whatever they get in the next 70.3, they're getting the full points. And then Christian Hogenhaug is in the same boat as well, but he's got a bit less points. So potentially, if Christian Hogenhaug has a really good 70.3, he could leapfrog everyone and go to the top. But Greg Barnaby and
Yeah, but they need to almost win the 70.3 in order to get.
No, they only need 2,000 points. They can finish 15 minutes behind in a 70.3 in World Champs to the leader, unless Patrick Langer improves his score. So they don't need to win it. And if they do a normal 70.3, they can finish 8 minutes behind.
Because the 70.3s that Patrick Lang has done are an absolute shocker.
Yeah, but then
points-wise.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he still needs to do well. So basically, it could all come down to 70.3 world. So I think if Patrick wants to guarantee that he gets up there and actually wins the series, he needs to go to 70.3 worlds and has a good race. And they all need to go there as well. And basically, it's all going to come down to the last race. Yeah. It all depends on how they all do in that. Like, literally, it is down to the wire. If Patrick has a shocker at 70.3 worlds, he could get leapfrogged and finish 4th place in the series.
Yeah. Wow.
That's going to could potentially win it. But Matt's already scored very high in his 70.3, so it's unlikely he's going to score any more because he won one and got second, and it was close. So he nearly maxed them out. Obviously, there's bonus points in the worlds, so he could score more. But I think Christian Hogenhaug, Matthew Marquette, and Greg Barnaby any one of them could win it still and cut, because they're one, even though they look like they're down in the rankings quite far, but because they've got one race that they can still score in, they can leapfrog all the way up, and they'll definitely make the podium, I think, unless they literally have a mechanical or get sick or injured. So there's so much money riding on this last 70.3.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how that's going to plan out. I'm going to pick the next athlete of the race that caught my eye. Next one for me was actually Leon Chevalier. I remember during the live stream when I watched him, he was battling in the middle of flipping nowhere on the Queen K, and I thought like, oh my god, Leon is an absolute goner, because up ahead of him was a group of, I think, 20 athletes, something like that, 15 to 20 athletes, with all the big hitters in there, and they were riding in a massive group. Then you had still Ditlev in front of that. You had Sam Laidlow in front of that. Anyway, shitload of big hitters. And he was battling out solo in the middle of the Queen K. And I just thought he is an absolute goner. But then he had the race of his life. So he rode the second fastest ride of the day, 4:01, and then ran a 2:49, which got him 4th place at the Ironman World Championships. Now, I think if you come out of the water in 34th place, that is just flipping nuts.
I thought that as well when they showed you him on the coverage, and he was literally like totally no man's land, wasn't he? He was behind the pack, behind
He
one
was
pack.
almost 5 minutes down in the swim. That's.
Well, 3.5 minutes. He actually had a good swim. 3.5. He actually had a really good swim for him. But he couldn't. He was riding like the same speed as the front group, wasn't he? So like he wasn't really for a long period of time. Wasn't really making any time into them. And then I was thinking, God, is he going to use all that energy and then not catch him? But then all of a sudden, like they must have slowed down after like on the way back. Once they got onto the Queen K, and then he just kind of he was there, wasn't he? And then it was
He was
like,
there, yeah, because he rode 5 minutes. So he lost on the swim 4.5, 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes on the swim. And he rode 5 minutes quicker than a lot of them. So he basically came into transition a minute ahead of the big pack. So he came into transition a minute ahead of Patrick Lang, for example. So he overtook him in his
yeah.
whole squad. So yeah, I think that is.
I read something that he said. So he caught him with about 15 miles to go, 20 miles to go, and then he put an attack, and him and that Menno Koolhaas managed to drop the group. I think it was him who came with it.
Absolute crazy result for him. I mean, of course, he's already had amazing results in Nice last year and in St. George. He had a cracking result, but how this planned out for him race-wise, just crazy strong bike run. So I'm going to rate his Leon Chevalier's performance a 9.
Yeah, I think that was solid. I mean, I would say, because I would say a 7 or an 8.
7 sounds kind of sad, mate.
No, because I think he will be a bit disappointed knowing how close he was to the podium and with his run.
Yeah, but is the rating about him being how disappointed he is or how great we think his result was?
Well, I would say a 7 then.
Yeah?
Because I think he biked really well and he swam like what you'd probably expect. But the run, I don't think he would be happy with that. And I don't think that, to be honest, he ran as quick as what he knows he can do. And I think he'll be mulling that and knowing that he lost out on second and definitely third place because he only just run under 250.
Yeah, but he had the 4th fastest run of the day, so you can't be.
But you've got to look that you've lost 13 minutes on the run to the fastest split.
Yeah, all right.
12 and a half minutes. And the fact is that if he'd have run, I'm just looking at it now, he was 2:43, he did 2:46.
Yeah, if he did like a minute quicker.
A 2:45 would have got him, a 2:45 gets him second place.
Yeah.
A 2:46 even something gets him second place in the Ironman World Champs. And certainly, and if he'd have run a 2:48, he would have been on the podium. So I think that he's going to be looking at that. And yeah, that is a really good result and it's a massive breakthrough.
So would you say in hindsight, you would say you weren't happy with your results in the past in Kona because you've come in twice, 5th place twice with
I was disappointed.
marathon. Yeah?
Yeah. I did quicker than I did a 2:45, I think, when I was there last time. 2:44, 2:45, something like that. But I was disappointed because I knew how good my form was and I feel like I could have done a better result. But I think it would. But looking back, it was okay. It was where the minimum of what I would have hoped for because I knew how well I was going. Mm-hmm. But this race, it seemed a lot more fair. Like I think when we did it in 2022, it was pretty clear to see that motorbikes had a massive influence on the front of the race. Like you could see it. Whereas this time, whenever they were showing you it, you couldn't see it, and that's why I think a lot of people were able to come from behind. Yeah. Whereas if you look at 2022 and some of the other races before that, no one was able to come from behind. Right. You mopped people up that had been dropped from the lead group and the groups up the road, but that lead group you can
pick the next athlete.
I would go for the last. This should we do this one as the last one? Last athlete. Well, I'll go for Magnus Ditlev. I reckon. He had a really good. His swim was decent, wasn't it? He just managed to get tailed off the front of that lead group, which that was kind of like the race defining move for him, I think, because had he have been in that group, he would have been with Laidlow in transition, and he would have had the option to try and go with him, which I think he would have, and it could have been a different outcome. But like Sam put in a big dig, didn't he, after halfway, and split that group. And unfortunately for him, he was in the back half, and he ended up losing about a minute and a half, I think, something like that, by the end of the swim. And then he had to bridge up to the lead group, and then he obviously put in a lot of effort, didn't he, at the start of the he put in a lot of effort in the start of the bike to catch the group, and then he put in a surge, pulled away from him, and at that point, when I was watching it, was Sam up the road, Magnus chasing, Christian behind. They were all the three people that everyone was kind of talking about, wasn't it, before the race? And I thought, it's going to be, will Magnus end up catching Sam? It looks like it could be a battle between them two. But then he just he just fell apart in the last hour and a bit of the race, didn't he? Last hour and a half, kind of bonked and lost 5 minutes. And then was in transition with the group behind, but managed to rally on the run, didn't he? It was like he's like a robot, isn't he? He just stays solid, doesn't he?
He is like a flipping robot, not just in interviews, but also like the way he's. I think how he executed this race is also something that you should expect from an athlete like him, like the world record holder, and he's went sub 7:30 multiple times. So I don't think that you can say that this was an extraordinary result for him. Like, this is just his level, This is what.
Well, I think he'll be disappointed that he lost so much time on the bike. I don't think he'll be happy with the last hour of the ride. I mean, I don't know. It depends what power he did for the first bit, but the fact that you lose that much power at the end of the bike, you wouldn't be happy with that, would you? No matter who you are, if you race. And
true. And especially for him, for being known as the biker.
But I guess a lot of it, what caused all this, was people getting in each other's heads. I think Christian got in their heads, and they knew that they needed a buffer on Christian starting the run. That was what they all thought. And that made them race a bit erratically, trying to drop him so early in the bike and put in a big surge. And then Sam got in his head, knowing that he was pulling away and that he obviously didn't want to give Sam 4 or 5 minutes starting the run because he wouldn't win.
Yeah.
But then Sam was riding hard because he was also worried about Christian, knowing that thinking that Christian was the big threat, and he didn't want Christian to get back in the race. And he also Sam didn't want Magnus to start the run with him, because I don't know, he wouldn't have been confident that he could have outrun him. So it was almost like they were all getting in each other's heads, and it forced them to kind of race each other rather than like playing it a bit more patient. Whereas I feel like Patrick was prepared to lose the race by letting people go up the road in order to win it. And that kind of meant that he was able to save his energy in the group. People didn't really get into his head. I mean, to be honest, I don't think Patrick could have really done anything on the front anyway. It wasn't like he was going to be able to stop Sam or Magnus riding away, was it? He hasn't got that power. So his only card he could play was sit in the group and just hope that people on the front of the group keep a good pace, and he's in contention starting the run. And that was what happened. But yeah, I think Magnus will be probably a bit disappointed with that. I think he won't be happy that he lost time on the bike, and I think he would have probably liked to have run a lot closer to 240, maybe a 240, 241 there.
But then still, he lost like 7.5 minutes to Patrick Lang. So maybe he lost 3 minutes on the bike or 4 minutes on the bike, but then he still had to run 4 or 5 minutes quicker. So
yeah, but if he'd have biked 3 minutes quicker, and he'd have run, he would have needed to run like 5 minutes quicker. So let's
quickly head over to Lionel Sanders.
We need to give him a rating.
I'm gonna rate Magnus an 8. I mean, you can want all the stuff in the world, but if you're coming in second at World Championships, where everyone's fading, that you faded the very least out of almost. Sorry.
You think he'd be that happy, so you'd give him an 8? I think he'll be disappointed.
Of course he's going to be happy. I mean, he's never done that well in an Ironman World Champs.
All right, yeah, I'll change mine then and put it a bit higher then as well.
Yeah. Hey, man, you came in second. I'm going to give you a 4 because he wanted to run 2 minutes quicker. Well, everyone wanted to run quicker, and I think he just ran quicker than almost everyone.
So you think basically that he's got to be happy because that was the best he's done in a World Champs?
He's got to be happy.
Everyone wants more, but the reality is you've never done this well before, so that's an 8 out of 10. And if you think that it wasn't, it's because you're almost got unreal expectations that you're wanting to jump up too much in one go. It's a bit like you got to kind of learn to walk.
It's like I would do Rotterdam and run at 2:33 or 2:34, and I would say, Yeah, I'm not happy because I wanted to do a 2:30 and then I'm coming in 150th instead of 170th. No, I should be happy with 2:35 as well, or 2:34, because I've never ran that quick. I've never had something that was that good, And in his case, he never came in second at World Champs. So yes, maybe he wanted to win it, and that was the big goal. But it doesn't
But
mean
this is
he's
still
disappointed.
better than he's ever done before.
Exactly, and
Well,
now he can look at how can I ride quicker and not fade in the last hour, and run quicker in Kona next year and try and win it.
and
So
then come
that's the
back and
next
try
step.
and execute that. Yeah, that's a good point, because we always say about people on Instagram, don't we? You always see the athletes who said, "Not what I was hoping for," because we always laugh to each other, don't we, saying that? Because a lot of people, like, they'll do like their best ever race or a really good race for them, and they
Yeah,
always complain, don't they? And it's like, well, actually, you need to be happy with that. You've never done as good as that before. Yeah, you wanted more, but everyone wants more, don't they? You get a PB no matter what it is, and you always think, well, I want to go faster next time, and I want to break that. But sometimes
yeah, but
you don't take you take for granted what you actually do when it's.
exactly. And the majority of this comes from comparison with others, and comparison is the thief of joy.
That's what I say to you. That's what I've said to you, isn't it?
It
That
is. It is.
I
Comparison
like
is the
that.
thief of joy.
Yeah, no, it is true, because if you don't compare yourself to other people, you might be a lot more happy. But then you compare yourself to other people and you see that they've got more than what you've got or something better, and then you think, oh, actually, mine's shit. But before you knew what they had, you were actually really happy with what you had. You thought it was good. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And actually, yeah, he should be happy with that, and it should be a good performance. And yeah, because he's never done as well as that before.
Shall we quickly head over to Lionel Sanders?
Yeah, go on in.
So you asked me what he needs to do in order to win the World Championships, right?
Yeah. So let's just say you're looking at it from a point of view where it's not about what you think he's capable of doing, what you think he needs to do to win it. Like what areas does he need to improve on to win the world champs? How do you see it? Is it mental? Is it certain aspects in his, like, swim, bike, and run? Like,
Now,
if in some of his training, what he does, like, do you think he needs to change his
you
training? Like,
you asked me this question last week, and you said give me the answer on the podcast. And the first thing that popped up my mind was one of the vlogs he made years ago after the World Champs, where he's like, "Stupid mistake, stupid mistake. I should stop sucking at swimming."
did he
And I'm
say that?
thinking, yeah. So then he had these series where what he called something like "Stop sucking at swimming."
Oh, I
So
can remember that. That was when he
and
first went to Tucson, wasn't it?
yeah, and that doesn't mean that he's a shit swimmer. But I think if he wants to win the world champs, first of all, he needs to swim like 2-3 minutes quicker. Because look at Leon, he swam 50 something. So Lionel was almost 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes after Leon. And Leon had to ride the riders of his life in order to get back into contention. And Lionel didn't have, a slow ride. He still rode 4:09, but in combination with the swim, you just lose so much time that he probably went too hard on the run in the beginning just to catch up time, and then he blew up. So I think if he wants to win the world champs, it's just start off with swimming just a little bit faster. But then
Do
he
you
was still in the group with Cam Worth, who also ran up into seventh. So
Yeah, and if
it,
he'd have put 5 minutes, if he'd have done the same swim, same bike as Cam, and ran 5 minutes quicker, he would have been 26 seconds off the podium, and that would have been running a 2:45 marathon. So he would have literally been in the hunt in the last K or two, battling with.
what I find crazy with Lionel Sanders is he's one of the best 70.3 athletes in the world. How is he 9 out of 10 times just running so shit in an Ironman, whilst his runs in 70.3s are amazing?
I personally wonder if it's because of a lot of indoor training, and that you don't use your core. Like, when you see him on the road, he has a lot of upper body movement, doesn't he? Like, when you see it, it's like moving from left to right, left to right. And I wonder if that fatigues the core muscles quite a lot. So that when you get off on after being out on the bike for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, bearing in mind you've also swam, so like you've done over 5 hours of physical exertion, that then your core muscles are all fatigued, and it means that then you end up using more energy because you're not as stable when you run, and it's like a vicious circle, isn't it? Your core doesn't help you as much. You use more energy, so then you become even more inefficient, and eventually then it hits you and you end up having to walk because because of that. Because I don't know if he does any strength and conditioning, but I've never seen him on any of his videos ever show you what he does for strength and conditioning or even mention it. Like, I don't know if he does anything like that. And I think that if he doesn't, his core probably isn't that strong, although he looks like really ripped. You know, some people can look really ripped, but the core's not actually that strong. And I wonder if it's because of inefficiencies that he just fatigues so much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I reckon. And in a half, it's not long enough that them inefficiencies really take over. You know, he can kind of get away because 20-minute swim, 2 hours on the bike, and then if it does start get wearing you down, it might only be the last 5-10 minutes on the run because he's only out there for 70 minutes, isn't he, when he's running?
Yeah. Yeah.
But whereas in an Ironman, you know, you'll get into that last 13 miles after 7 hours, 6.5 hours of actual smashing it. And that is just too much of an impact. And that's where he starts to slow. That's what I think. Because a lot of people who are really, you know, good at Ironman, when you see them on the bike, they don't sway from left to right, do they? They're really rock solid.
So basically, with the advice we're giving is looking at the stuff he's done over the year. So he swam like 7 times a week, 30K. I would say back off with the swimming a little bit because it's, with all respect, not helping as much as what you think. Because he always swam around 52 minutes, didn't he? So basically,
he's always been at that point, basically, like that
he's
deficit.
almost swimming double the distance. And we've also seen it with Eric Clow, who went to like Australia to swim 1,000 Ks a week. It just doesn't really help. If it's better to swim around 20K a week than 30 to 40K if you're not a swimmer, because in the end, it's about the technique and it's not really helping. Instead, change some of the hours for, you would say, 2 hours of strength and conditioning, 2-3 hours. And then our Lionel Sanders is good to go for the World Champs.
Yeah, well, I think he needs to be minimum like he needs to swim with Leon, doesn't he, and Matt Hansen?
Yeah.
Like, because potentially he would have been, if he'd have swam with Leon and he would have biked with Leon, no one can say he wouldn't have been in a winning position because he would have been off the bike over a minute ahead of the guy that eventually won it. So he was in a winning position. Leon got himself to a winning position, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, the win was on the cards had he have run faster. So for Lionel, the minimum he needs to look at that is think, I need to be swimming with Leon and Matt Hansen. I think that's an achievable task. We're not telling him he needs to swim with like flipping Sam Laidlow in the front pack, which is probably never going to happen. You know, he's not going to gain 5 minutes now, is he? But to swim with Leon is definitely an achievable thing. And that puts you only 3 minutes down. If you can then ride the same as the front guys, you then start on the run only 3 minutes down. And in Kona, that's not impossible. I mean, Langer would have ran 9 minutes into Laidlow and then he won by 8 minutes. So, you know, that's the minimum he needs to do. And I think he needs to look at like some of his technique. I think definitely his strength and condition and probably mobility, which is what I've been doing. You know, like my mobility has not been great, like flexibility wise. And obviously that's so important in the swim, isn't it? So you can get a better catch and get like, you look at top swimmers, they're all so mobile, aren't they? And like flexible in their shoulders. Yeah. So I think he needs to improve on that. And I think his mindset as well. Like, I feel like the Lionel of 2016, 2017 going into Kona was, I'm here to win. And I'm fucking going all in. And it's like, catch me if you fucking can. And it was like, I'm going to set the pace. And it's up to those guys to come with me. And I remember watching that race because I wasn't there. And him, Sebastian Kienle, Cam Worth got out the swim behind. They worked together. They rode through everyone, including Jan Frodeno. They dropped him on the bike. Jan ended up pulling out the race because his back was fucked from trying to go with him. You know, and they literally got off the run. Yeah, and they literally took the race to each other. And Lionel
when was this? 2017, right?
2017, and they took the race on. And it was like Lionel's mindset back then was like every race he did was, I'm getting to the front. And they were, you know, they'd be like, how much power do you reckon you're going to do? And he would be like, I don't fucking care. I'll ride as hard as I have to catch the race. And then it was like, once he caught the race, he'd be like pushing, you know, and the lead would go up. And he ran 250 back then. And you think, I think he ran 252 back then when Langer beat him. Langer had to run like 13 minutes into him or something. Yeah. And that was pre-carbon shoes. So a 252 back then, what would you say now? Would be a 249? Something like that? 248?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
If he got off the bike with Leon and he ran 248, he gets third place. And what's the difference? A pair of carbon shoes that he didn't have back then. You know, that's what we're talking, the margins, you know.
But so, it's just...
and you must have seen in his videos, his mindset was, they said to him, are you going to race it hard? Because he said about, like, you can either go out, you need to do this to catch a lead group, you're going to do that. And he said, no, I'm going to ride my own power. And I kind of think, you can't do that in the World Champs. If it was that easy that you could just ride a comfortable power that you can sustain, it'd be flipping easy. You should be getting pushed to periods in the race where you're contemplating giving up and letting people go, because people, it's the world champs. If it was easy to get a result like that and you could just take your time and pace it evenly, then it wouldn't be anything worthwhile, would it? You're racing the fittest guys in the world over the hardest endurance event in the world. It should not be fucking easy. It should be like you're on the limit and you're pushing your body to whatever it's got. And you're asking more than what you thought you could do. And I feel like he's trying to race too measured, taking the lactate. This is what I can hold. This is what I'm going to do. I think the worst thing that he ever did was get into using lactate, and he should go back to not using it, because I feel like the old line on the way he used to train was superb. You know, like his mindset was rock solid. You couldn't fault him. He was a fucking killer, wasn't he? He hasn't got that mindset now. He was a fucking killer, mate. Like, you look at every 70.3 from 2015, and if you want to watch a different mindset, go back to Lionel Sanders vlogs from 2015 to 2017. They're all on YouTube, and look at the mindset from back then. You know, and you must remember the video where he's crying on his turbo trainer indoors because he's pushing himself that hard. Can you remember that one that went around?
Yeah.
You don't now. It's all like LT1. I'm just riding at this, and I think he did too much training leading into it. Too much LT1. Like, I swear, every time I was watching a vlog, it was pretty much nearly every day there was intensity. I don't think I ever saw it.
That's crazy coming from a tempo skipper.
Yeah, but I don't do it every day. Like, you know, like, you've got to have your easy days. And I swear, like, nearly every day, I mean, he did have some easy days, but nearly every day when he was doing intervals, it was always LT1 or LT2, but these big grueling sessions in the heat, you know, like 20 to 25 Ks worth of running, you know, and a lot of intervals, like 10-minute, 20-minute intervals. And I just think in the heat, you're just depleting yourself so much, especially out there in the heat of the day.
A shitload of athletes were doing a lot during the 2 weeks building up to Kona, whereas there was one athlete who didn't do a lot, and it was all on Strava. That was Menno Koolhaas, who came in 5th, you know, and someone else who did an absolute shitload prior to the race, like riding a course record, it was Rasmus Swenningsen. And where was he on race day? Like, he was a gun from the start. He said something like his brakes were rubbing. But I always think, how does that happen on the World Champs? But what, were brakes rubbing, or were the legs rubbing?
I think it was probably a bit of both. The legs were singing.
The legs were singing after K2.
I can't understand it. I see so many people leaving their races in training before the race. So many pros. Like, another one that I've seen is that Tor Bendix Madsen. Like, I see some of the numbers that he does on Strava, and then he's like doing tempos and thresholds up until 2 days, 3 days before the race. And I'm just thinking, why? Just give yourself like the best opportunity, you know, on race day. And I see so many pros doing that. And it just bemuses me. I mean, you're out in Kona, oppressive conditions anyway. Why the fuck are you going out doing tempos 3 or 4 days before the race and like hard threshold sessions where you're just depleting your
I think it's insecurity in your own body. Like, just a little check. Is it still there?
But you know what, like I watched something about like with Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and they asked him what does he think he was capable of, you know, for the 5K and stuff like that, and you know, when he does it, and he says he has no idea, because he says he doesn't test himself in training. He sticks to his training sessions and he does them, and he just knows that if I do these training sessions, he's got this confidence that if I do them, then I'll be able to do a really good race. But he says he never knows what he might do for the 1500, and the pace is always like so much harder than what he ever does in training, because he's running kind of like within himself and, you know, using the lactate, but he's not testing himself. Whereas a lot of these athletes, is it testing themselves? I don't understand. Like, 4 days before the race, you can't fucking get the gains from that session. You're doing these tempo threshold sessions. 4 days later, you're not any fitter on race day. You are just taken away in that last week before the race. If you're training hard like that, you're taken away from your race day performance. Yeah. Like, you're not going to feel good. Like, the whole point of the last week, isn't it, is just doing enough that you kind of feel sharp and that you don't, like, your body doesn't shut down and feel lethargic, but not trying to gain fitness, is it? You know, you might actually, in fact, be a slightly less fit come race day, but because you're so much more fresher, that's where you get that optimum performance, isn't it? And I feel like so many of these guys are like going in there not fresh. They must be fucked. They're doing like 20 hours in race week with like multiple sessions across
that is nuts. That's what I think nuts as well. Like, my peak weeks are around that, and they're doing like peaking during the race week.
And then they walk on the Queen K, and they're like, I don't know why I was going well. Well, guys, I'm not a flipping brain surgeon, but I can tell you, it might have been the fact that you did an Ironman. You basically fucked yourself race week, and you've done it. It's not the first time you've done it.
It's doing 180 Ks with a shitload of race efforts a week before, and also a long run the week before. And in combination with the extreme conditions in Kona, makes you recover even slower. Yeah, probably like that. But anyway, they were at the World Champs, Jody, and we were not. So maybe we are wrong. We're wrong, baby. Anyway, shall we wrap it up? Because we're over an hour.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Alrighty, dogs. Now, thanks for listening. We'll be back with another podcast next week. See ya.
See you later.